Welcome to Preserving for You. This series will discuss research-backed home food preservation methods. I'm Terry James.
And I'm Julian Carpenter with the Cooperative Extension Service of the University of Arkansas System Division of Agriculture.
Today, we're going to make apple butter, which falls into the sweet spread category. We'll be using a boiling water bath canner to process it. So Julian, what foods should we use for boiling water bath canners?
The boiling water bath method is safe for high-acid foods such as fruits, tomatoes, pickles, jams, jellies, and other fruit preserves. In this method, jars of food are heated completely covered with boiling water. Sweet spread products are jellied or thickened, and most are preserved with the addition of sugar. This includes products such as jams, preserves, conserves, marmalades, and butters. Terry, is the butter we're making today similar to the dairy-based butter we buy from the store?
Well, Julian, not exactly. The butter we're making today is a slow-cooked, thick spread made from fruit that can be easily spread on toast, muffins, in place of butter, so it's not a dairy butter.
In normal jelly food products, sugar is an important ingredient that aids in forming a good gel and prevents the growth of microorganisms and the product's taste. However, in a reduced sugar recipe like we're using today, a sugar substitute like sucralose is used. Butter recipes that use sugar substitutes are lower in sugar and acidity. This will require us to cook down our fruit longer to achieve the same thickness and consistency as regular butter. In addition, you will experience a quicker loss in quality over time compared to regular butter. Evidence-based recipes tested and made with sugar substitutes should be used for optimal quality, taste, and safety.
The best sources of instructions for home canning are the recently published booklets prepared by the Cooperative Extension Service, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, also known as USDA, major manufacturers of home canning equipment, or other reliable professionals. Avoid following the home canning advice of untrained celebrities, old cookbooks, back-to-nature publications, and out-of-date home canning leaflets. Some potentially dangerous instructions can be found in old official publications. Be sure you have the latest publications based on current research. We recommend the National Center for Home Food Preservation website, So Easy to Preserve by the University of Georgia Cooperative Extension Service, and the USDA Complete Guide to Home Canning, which is available as a free download. So, the recipe that we're making today will yield about 4 to 5 half-pint jars of reduced sugar apple butter. You're going to need 4 pounds of apples, a cup of apple cider, a half a cup of granulated sucralose, 1 tablespoon of ground cinnamon, a 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves, a 1/2 teaspoon of ground allspice, and today we'll be using Honeycrisp apples.
Some of the equipment we will be using today includes a large pot, a large stirring spoon, a ladle, a spatula, measuring spoons and measuring cups, a cutting board, knife, dish towels, pot holders, a variety of mixing bowls, a ruler or a bubble releaser or a headspace tool, jars, lids and rings, a jar lifter, a funnel, a water bath canner. Today we'll be using an electric water bath canner, but a traditional water bath canner can also be used. We'll also need a canner rack or a trivet, a food mill, colander, or a strainer, a food scale, a clean plate, and a teaspoon.
So, Julian, tell me a little bit more about a water bath canner.
Sure thing. A water bath canner is a large covered cooking pot with a rack. Racks can be metal or silicone. Any large metal container may be used if it is deep enough for 1 inch of briskly boiling water to cover the jars. The diameter of the canner should be no more than 4 inches wider than the diameter of your stove's burner to ensure proper treatment of all jars. The canner must have a tight-fitting lid and a rack. The rack keeps the jars from touching the bottom of the canner and allows the water to circulate freely under the jars.
So, today we're going to be preparing the jars and the lids. It's very important that you utilize a mason-type jar specifically designed for home canning as the best. Commercial mayonnaise or other jars purchased with foods like tomato sauces, peanut butter, and salad dressing may not seal with home canning lids, even though they seem to fit. They're not manufactured for the high temperature or the long processing times in home canning, or at least not for reuse in canning. Therefore, jars may break, especially in pressure canning. Home canning jars come in various sizes from half-pint jars to half-gallon jars. Pint and quart are the most recommended. Jars come in regular and wide-mouth styles. Always examine your jars and discard those with nicks, cracks, and rough edges. These defects will not permit an airtight seal on the jar, and food spoilage will result. All canning jars should be washed in soapy water, rinsed well, and then kept hot. Jars that will be filled with food and processed for less than 10 minutes in a boiling water bath canner need to be sterilized. For instructions for sterilizing jars, see the So Easy to Preserve book or the National Center for Home Food Preservation. Because the processing time is 15 minutes in today's recipe, we do not have to sterilize the jars. They're being warmed while we prepare the apple butter.
Let's talk about the proper lids to use for home canning. Research-tested canning recipes recommend metal 2-piece closures for home-based canning. 2-piece lids are sold to fit regular and wide-mouth glass canning jars. They're made up of a flat metal ring and a metal screw band. The lid contains a sealing compound that, when effectively used, softens the canning process and forms an airtight seal as the container cools. Traditional metal lids are designed to be used only once. When opening the jar, the lid becomes warped. Also, the sealing compound is compromised by use. Unused lids should be stored in a cool, dry location and may be good for up to 5 years from the date of manufacture. Over time, the sealing compound will degrade and the lid may fail to seal.
To prepare our fruit, sort and wash the apples. There are many different types of apples, such as Arkansas's very own Arkansas Black. Your apple choice is based on personal preference, but we suggest ones that cook well and offer a good balance of sweetness and tartness, like Granny Smith's, Honey Crisp, Jonathan's, or Brayburn's. Feel free to be creative and even mix and match your apples to get the required 4 pounds for this recipe. To make the apple butter, we need to wash the apples well and remove the stems. We've already done that. So Julian, can you show me how you're going to cut these apples?
Sure.
We're going to cut them into quarters or eighths and remove the cores. We're going to combine the unpeeled apples and the cider into an 8-quart saucepan. Then we'll slowly cook it until the apples are very soft and almost falling apart. And I like that tool.
Oh gosh.
There we go. All right. We're going to position a food mill or a strainer securely over a large bowl. We're going to press these cooked apples with the cider through the food mill or the strainer to make a pulp. Position a food mill or strainer securely over a large bowl and press cooked apples with the cider through the food mill or strainer to make a pulp. Be sure to collect all the pulp that comes through the food mill or strainer. For example, scrape any pulp that is clinging to the bottom under the food mill into the bowl. Every little bit is important, Julian, so get it all. We are going to combine the apple pulp with sucralose and spices in an 8-quart saucepan. Then we will be simmering this over a low heat and stirring frequently until it thickens. To test for doneness, as a butter, spoon a small quantity onto a clean plate. When the butter mounds on the plate without liquid separating around the edge of the butter, it's ready for processing. Another way to test for doneness is to remove a spoonful of the cooked butter on a spoon and hold it away from the steam for 2 minutes. It is done if butter remains mounded on the spoon. Julian, I think we got it.
I think so.
All right.
When it's time to fill the jars, pour the product into the hot jars, leaving a headspace of 1/4 inch. The unfilled space above the food in a jar and below its lid is referred to as headspace. Each home canned food product has a specific recommendation for the depth of the headspace. It is important to remove the air bubbles that have developed inside the jars. Air bubbles trapped inside the jar may rise to the top during processing, causing too much headspace. This can result in the jars not sealing properly. Do not use a metal knife to do this because the metal can scratch the glass inside the jar. Though these scratches may be difficult to detect, they weaken the jar and could cause it to break during later processing. After the air bubbles have been removed, more product may need to be added to the jar to ensure proper headspace. Traditionally, lids were simmered or boiled prior to applying to jars, but this generally is not the case now. Check the directions on the lid package or manufacturer's website. Always wash and rinse lids and bands prior to use. Do not use a dishwasher because this can increase the risk of the metal pieces rusting. Clean the jar rim prior to applying the lid. Food residue trapped on the jar rim can cause seal failures. Place the metal screw band over the flat lid and apply fingertip tight. In other words, place the screw band on the jar, turn it just until you feel resistance, then turn the band 1/4 turn more. Screw bands that are applied too loosely or too tightly can cause jars to not seal properly.
So to process, we'll be doing the boiling water bath for 15 minutes. When processing, each food has its own processing time. These processing times are based on research that tells how long the product must be heated so that all the food in the jar has reached the temperature needed to destroy dangerous microorganisms. The length of time required varies with the denseness of the food, its packing liquid, and its pH. Because these processing times are based on research, they should be followed exactly. Underprocessing can result in spoiled food, while overprocessing results in overcooked food. Water should cover the jars by at least 1 to 2 inches. For the recipe today, it's recommended to process for 15 minutes. We'll follow the 15-minute processing time to ensure the apple butter sets.
When the processing time is complete, place a clean towel on the counter. It is important to have a barrier between the jars and the counter to prevent jars from cracking if placed on stone counters like granite, quartz, and corian. When lifting jars from the canner, go straight up and over to the towel and straight down. Do not tilt jars to remove excess water. After processing, remove jars from the canner and allow them to cool for 12 to 24 hours undisturbed. Do not retighten the screw bands. Once the jars are completely cooled, check the seal. Once the screw band is removed, you should also be able to tell if the flat lid is sealed in place. If a jar is not sealed after 24 hours, refrigerate it and use the unspoiled food within 2 to 3 days. Other options, if it has been no longer than 24 hours, are to reprocess the food or to freeze it. We look for uniform consistency and thick enough to spread for our final product.
I think we have it, Julian.
For storage, it's best practice to remove the screw bands for storage. When removed, washed, dried, and stored in a dry area, screw bands may be used many times. If lids are properly prepped and a tested recipe is followed, lids on jars should remain sealed for many years. For the best quality, use home canned foods within the first year. Wash food residue from the jars and rinse. Label showing contents and date. Store in a clean, cool, dark, dry place. The best temperature is between 50 and 70 degrees. Avoid storing canned food in a warm place near hot pipes, a range or a furnace, or in direct sunlight. They lose quality in a few weeks or months depending on the temperature and may even spoil. Keep canned goods dry. Dampness may corrode metal lids and cause leakage, so food will spoil. For best quality, use canned foods within 1 year. Hey Terry, you want to give our butter a try with our biscuits?
I think so. They're looking pretty good.
Good work.
Very good. We did great.
If you have any questions, refer to the resources in the video and always feel free to contact your Family and Consumer Science agent at your County Extension office. Additional videos are available on our Arkansas Division of Agriculture YouTube page. Thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching.